Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. This is a channel about cross stitch and the stitching that I've done this week. Today is Flosstube number 8. Let's talk Marburg Nativity. It is Sunday, June the 8th, and compared to last week, I made myself say, you must record earlier. You must record earlier. You cannot have the Halloween lighting that you had last week. Unfortunately, it is a gloomy, cloudy, rainy, windy day here today, so the lighting is a little better, but not as great as when the sun is shining. And if you hear background noises, it's because it is windy and rainy and all of those things. So, I'm going to warn you right now, I feel like this is going to be a very lengthy video, so settle in, buckle up, grab yourself a beverage, take care of the necessities, and don't forget you can always watch videos in either 1 or 47 chunks. Just make a note of where you stopped the last time. So lots to talk about, lots of things to show and random things, and who knows how this is going to go, but stay tuned, we'll all find out together. I've also decided that I'm going to call things Flosstube if they're, about an hour-ish or less. I'm really worried that this is going to turn into floss cinema. So let's find out. Okay, let's get started. So just want to talk a little bit right off the get-go about the current situation. Floss tubers are noting what's going on in the world, and everybody needs to process these things individually. We all do process them individually. For me, I'm not going to do a public statement other than to acknowledge that there are things going on right now. For me personally, I feel that these are topics that are best had in conversations where you can converse directly with someone so that you can have that interaction. It's invariably when you're making a video, you'll say things and you'll look at it and you're like, well, that's not quite how I should have said that, or I could have done that better. And so when you're in the moment talking live with someone, you can actually have that interaction. And, if you say something that doesn't come out quite right, that the person go like, sorry, did you really mean, whatever? And then you get to clarify. So I'm not going to do anything more than make a public statement saying I acknowledge what's going on. I clearly have concerns and opinions and thoughts and feelings, but for me, I will choose to have those conversations with people directly as opposed to having them online. So that's what I'm going to say about that topic. Topic number 2, I have to do a public service announcement again about our lovely LNSs and online needlework services. Shops, although it is a service. I've been watching some Flosstube this week, and I'm always concerned when I hear about shop owners talking about their staff being in tears about, what they're hearing from customers, and it's all okay. I know we all want to start what we want to start when we want to start it. Trust me, I'm very familiar with that feeling. Just want to go back and say there's a lot of backlog in the systems. And again, I've done completely no research to update things. This is just based on what I know at the moment. Clearly, none of the manufacturers of anything are talking to me on any topic whatsoever, so don't kid yourself that I'm all knowledgeable or I have none of that. This is stuff that I randomly hear. Could be valid at any point in time, could be not, but Krynic has only very recently reopened. Rainbow Gallery has only recently reopened. I think Gentle Arts has been open for maybe a couple of weeks, but, and again, not tracking all the stuff. Like you hear about the things where, their staff is limited to 50%. So, we've all been ordering like mad things. Don't get me wrong, I feel badly for my LNS where I said like, congratulations, I think over the course of 2 days I put in 4 random orders. It's like, could you just get your act together and put in 1 order? So anyway, never mind that. But they know me really well and they go like, I'll be fine. It's not like I have nothing to stitch. I have a bajillion things to stitch. But yeah, I don't really like when I hear that we're if as a community we're bringing, you know, staff at the stores to tears, or they're getting really upset and stressed because of the way people are handling things. Suppliers are backed up as far, like, it's through the whole chain. Like, I feel so badly for the people at Gentle Arts because I can only imagine how many orders they've got in. Rainbow Gallery, who knows what that looks like. So, you know, let's be kind to everybody in the process and acknowledge that things are going to take time. You know, I hear all the stuff about the mail being backed up. I'm very grateful because I do have an LNS, so they've got curbside pickup, have had curbside pickup throughout this whole situation. So I'm very fortunate, very lucky, very grateful that I have that. You know, but the mail, goodness knows, you hear the stories about, you know, it's within the city, and the package goes and, like, you know, lives in La La Land for 2 weeks before it gets to someone within the same city. Like, I don't know, that happens. But now that we're doing everything and we're using mail services of whatever type, like, the whole system is just backed up, and we all have our own things going on. You know, you have your own stresses, and I can't even speak to what they are. You know what your situation is, you know, but the people at the stores, they have their own situations. I certainly know at one of my LNSs that one of their staff members had a very close member that passed away during this situation. So, you know, let's be the people that we know we can be, and that for the most part we really are, because this is the moment to rise to the challenge. Because my other thing is, if you make things bad enough for people, we don't want the stores to close down. I'm just going to say, can you imagine a world where your only way of getting cross-stitch supplies is at Michael's? Anyway, that's my public service announcement on that topic. So, number 3, not that this will be super exciting for any of you, but it is very exciting for me. So you may not have noticed, it's super exciting. I got my hair cut. Oh my goodness, I can see. I feel so much better. I was so happy to see my hairstylist. It was great. All new precautions, and the whole thing is a completely different setup, but I was so grateful to get in and get my hair cut. It's, you know, I've never been so excited to have a haircut in my entire life, but it was great. It was getting desperate there at the end. I was going to have to do things on my own. So it was funny. I was catching up with someone, and they kind of were looking at me and saying, "Oh, I don't really notice much of a difference." And I'm like, "You don't notice a difference?" So if you who are watching can't see a difference, just to let you know, they actually cut off 2 inches. So if it looks the same to you, it feels very different. So very exciting. I know, not terribly exciting for you, but ridiculously exciting for me. And I feel so much better. So yay. All right. Okay, let's get on to some stitching and channel stuff, because I'm sure, you know, otherwise we're going to go down a black rabbit hole. All right. So comments, my channel. Let's talk about some exciting things. So I looked just before I started recording this. So as of Sunday, on my last video, wait for it, it had 219 views. Yay! I had noticed that the one, so earlier over this last week, I was looking at video number 6, and there was over 100 people. Yay! Oh my goodness, this means it's not just my friends watching, my stitching friends in particular. There are other of you, so yay, thank you. Thank you for spending some time with me. Thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. Always feel free to comment, ask questions. I will tell you, I'm going to have to get better at how I do this, because, you know, at the beginning, you know, with 9 views and no comments, you know, I didn't really have to do anything to monitor things. So I'm now getting better at that. So I do want to acknowledge very specifically Denise Jeffries. You are my first public commenter back on video number, Flosstube number 6. So yay! Thank you so much. I really, truly appreciate it. And you and we're going to be talking a little later in this video. So stay tuned. Denise Jeffries, if you're watching, whenever you get there, stay tuned. Keep going. There's more for you later. So yeah, all very exciting. I also noticed on video number 7 that I have my first thumbs down. I know I'm not supposed to be excited about that, but I'm a little bit excited about that because, as Michelle Bendy comments, apparently this is a rite of passage for floss tubers that you will always be getting a thumbs down. I'm not taking it personally, you know, to the person who thumbs down. So sorry you didn't like it, but that's okay, I'm good. All right, so we're through rites of passages. Sorry, I've got notes. Just hang on a second. Yes, so that's it on channel related stuff. So I really do say comments, questions, concerns, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I will work at making sure that I'm monitoring that now that, oh my goodness, people are watching, and not just the people who phone me and then say, hey, I really liked your video. So thank you very much. Very, very much appreciate that. All right. Let's get into my stitching this week. We have things to talk about. Let's get going, or else, you know, it's going to be not good. So what did I do? So last week, after the Halloween video lighting situation, cleaned up all that stuff, finally got to stitching. So it was, you know, much, much later than I would normally do, so it didn't get quite as much. So let's update on the very last project that I had started for Stitch Mania, which was Choose Joy by My Big Toe. So that's what that looks like. I am doing this on a 40 count Verdal. So 40 count, usually if somebody's talking about 40 count, it's usually only in the linen. Verdal is actually an even weave, which is my preference. So this is my first stitching on 40 count Verdal. And so yeah, it's super exciting. There's where I am. So what I finished is I finished this little flower down here. Okay, so not a ton of stitching on Sunday night, but at least I got some in, so that was good. We're making progress. This is going away for a while. You're going to hear about that in a bit. So 40 count white Verdal. The thread that I am using is Caron Waterlilies Polar Ice, and I forget the number of that, but I will put it in the note section below. So there we go. So that's what I did on Sunday. You're going to see me moving around. There's a lot of stuff here. So Monday, so this was the like, congratulations, you know, May's over, it's June, I'm going to change what I do, so what's that going to look like? And so as I commented last week, I was going to make sure that I was doing at least 5 days a week stitching on what I call a major project. And so right now I'm defining the major projects as being the one that's coming up next, or the Marburg Nativity. And then, but I had the flexibility over the course of a week to have 2 days where I could work on some of those small projects that I started during Mania. So wait till you hear what I did this week. It's not exactly going to be what you thought. Or for some of you, maybe it is exactly what you thought. So on Monday, I started with Fairy Winter Dream. So for the, you know, I feel like the 900th time, there's the model stitched on 32 count Ocean Kiss linen. I have to look at it every time. It's ridiculous. I know you'd think by now I would know what that was. I, of course, am not doing it on that. Where did my board go? There it is. I'm doing mine on 32 count Midnight Tryst Jobelin by Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie. Here we go. She has an arm. Very exciting. So the funny story that goes along with this is, for those of you who have been watching, know that I've been inheriting stash from family members for a variety of reasons. And so I'm actually trying to make sure that I use up that stash and put it to good use. And so one of the colors, man, it looks like she's like really pale, but I promise you it's like honestly flesh colored things. The color that's the darkest here and a little bit up here. So I started down here because there was like a whopping 8 stitches, and I went, great, I can get that accomplished. I So I was using inherited thread for that, put it in, looked at it and went, wow, that really doesn't look good. That looks wrong. But then I was like, no, so this is the problem when you're looking at things up close, that it doesn't look okay, and you should maybe step away and come back and look at it from a distance. And this is just because you have the project this close. So I did go away and I came back and I looked at it and I went, oh, I really don't like it. I really don't like it. So as usual, I hauled out my DMC card, held it up and went, okay, the dye lots have changed since, the dye lot of my inherited stash. Quite frankly, it honestly looked like, particularly in the hand, it looked like she had been helping a friend and they were using 1980s self-tanner. So, like that orangey thing that's like, and had forgotten to wash off her hands. It was noticeable. It was not good. So then I ripped out the glorious 8 stitches, and we won't even talk about, how annoying it is to rip out 1/1. It's annoying. 8 stitches, annoying to rip out 1/1. So I was really glad I had started there. So went back into the stash, got some of my stash, which was more like the color card, and put it in. So I'm feeling happier about that. So I will quickly talk about a tool so that as I was ripping out my 1980s self-tanner hand shade, and by the way, that's what I'm calling it now, 1980s self-tanner shade. This great little tool, actually, I honestly don't know what it's called, but it's one of these because, you get these little threads and it's kind of like an eraser. It just picks it all up. So it's great. Used that, got to the end and went, let's just clean that up. And then it went back to being pristine. And then I stitched it in and went, okay, we have an arm. So that was Monday. Finished up the gloriousness. So that was my goal. I very specific was like, okay, I'm just gonna put the arm in. The next time I pick this up, my goal is to put in the other arm. It's always good to have goals. Doesn't matter the size of the goals. It's just good to have goals. So that's what's going to happen the next time. So it's coming along. I'm making progress. Very happy with it. Actually, and as I sit here and do this, she's going to be lovely, isn't she? It'll be a while yet. Don't get excited. We're nowhere near to a finish. I did have a friend who's like, oh, you're getting awfully close to the end. You're close to a finish. And I went, no, I'm really not close to a finish. Let's not get excited. Okay, so that was Monday. Tuesday was Marbek Day. So let's talk about Marbek, which is why this video is called Let's Talk Marbek Nativity, because there's a lot to say about Marbek Nativity. So the Marbek Nativity is a really old pattern. I was reading, somebody had made a comment actually recently. So Michelle Bendy, as part of her charity auctions, was offering up a complete set of the charts. And there was some discussion in that particular post about, it's out of print. So I'm relying on that discussion to say that these charts are out of print. I haven't made any I don't know about that myself, because, by the way, I inherited these. This is where the story gets long. So what does the Marbek Nativity look like? So the Marbek Nativity is a series of 6 charts that make this very long pattern. So if you're counting, it's 6. It looks like it's 5, but it's 6 because the center panel is actually 2 charts. The top chart is 2 angels, and the bottom chart is with Mary, Joseph, and 2 of the wise men. So that's what the Marbek Nativity looks like. Just so you know, I have actually reached out to, because the discussion was going on that the charts are out of print, this is a specialty frame. So I've actually reached out, I sent out an email this week as to whether or not this frame was still available. I got an email back that said, you know, an order of them was being shipped, but they felt within 2 weeks the backlog was going to use it all up. So I've sent another email back asking if this frame is still available. Because now I'm starting to go, like, if they're being discontinued or something like that, I might want to get on and get this, because nobody's going to want to take this to a... Don't get me wrong, other framers could totally do this, but they'd have to do all the measuring of these weird angles and blah 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 blah. And if you can just get the chart, it's not a cheap frame, so it's not like the frame is expensive, but it is custom for this. And so when you get the series of charts, so I inherited these charts. So in the package that I got, it actually had an instruction sheet about what to buy from a fabric perspective and how to cut, you know, so what size you needed to buy, how to cut that piece of fabric into the specific sections to stitch this. So in order to fit in this frame, this needs to be stitched on either an 18 count fabric or a 36 count fabric. Your choice. 18, 36 ends up being the same size if you're doing the 36 over 2. So I am doing, so the stuff that I have is 36 count antique white linen. So you also know I'm really excited that it's a really big project on linen and not human weave, but I'm good. It will look lovely in the end. So I am working on the center panel, but before we get to the stuff that I'm stitching, I'm going to show you 3 of the panels. I had to do that math in my head. Let me think. 3 of the panels are already stitched and complete. So I just need to finish that center panel and the panel with the camel. Okay, you probably weren't paying attention. The camel. So this one's done, this one's done, this one's done. This is what I'm working on, and then I'm going to do this one last. And I'm going to tell you specifically why I'm doing that one last for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to show you the 3 other panels. This is not my stitching. Claim no credit for this. But they're stitched. It means I'm really a good chunk of the way of being able to, you know, get this project done. So this is, I'm actually going to get the big board out because the pieces are going to get bigger as we go through them. If I were smart, I'd be like the Sunshine Stitches and I'd have clips. So this is panel number 1. So this is actually, I believe it's called the Shepherd Boy. I number the panels from left to right. They're not actually numbered. I'm math, remember? So that's panel number 1, the Shepherd Boy. This is, okay, I'm actually starting to get really nervous. Okay, I'm probably gonna have to hold it up in front of my face so it fits in the screen. This is panel number, oh, maybe if I just, this is panel number 2. The angel and another shepherd. So I'm going to give you the far back, and then I'm going to come in a little bit, just talk about things. So just so you know, it's really hard to tell. Yeah, even if I hold an eye. So these are actually beads. These are not as charted in the chart as called for. These are just spots that are stitched with Krynic, and we're going to have a big Krynic discussion here in a bit. So it came to me with these stitched as beads, and to be perfectly honest, I think that is absolutely definitively the right decision. Man, to drag your Krynic, particularly on this fabric, a 36 count linen, like there's no way you're not going to see all of that carried thread. So I think this is fantastic, because you can attach them either with the invisible thread, Nymo, or, you know, it's not hard to get a floss that will go with antique white, which will make, because trust me, there's a lot of, you know, carried threads getting these things. So for all of, and you're going to see that on the next one as well, these are beads, and I'm planning on continuing that. Certainly for the ones that I'm doing, I will absolutely be using the beads. I believe that the beads are Mill Hill 557. So this is panel number 2. Panel number 3. Okay, panel number 3 isn't exactly fitting on the board. So this is panel number 3, 2 of the wise men, another angel. Bring it up. So again, so more of those seed beads. I'm having that moment looking at it now. I probably just need to go back and check. I can't believe that those aren't all of the seed beads. It just feels a little less than on the other one. So now that I've noted that, I'll go back and have a look. I feel like I just need to reattach this one. It feels a little off center to me. I think it should be like over 1 or 2. So I'm probably going to reattach that. That's not on my, you know, near term must do now, because I can always just take that bead off and reattach it as I get closer to the end. So again, I've got to let the tail down so you can see the grass. So this is panel number 3. Dun, dun, dun. Which brings us to the center panel, which I'm doing. So as I mentioned, the center panel is 2 charts. So this is the top chart called the Bethlehem Star. And then you attach, okay, I'm not good about making, okay. Actually, maybe I'm okay about overlapping these things. And then you attach the Holy Family as the bottom chart. So this panel is not subtle. So to give you an idea of the scale, the stitch count area for this panel, stitched as 1, is on 36 count over 2 is 27.5 by 18.5 is the stitched area. So clearly the piece of fabric is bigger than that. So also to give you a size of the scale when you get the whole project together, my answer is, and that specialty frame, it's like a fireplace screen. This is not subtle. This is a big piece. This is a big piece. Now, why am I doing this? Because I do have a very close family member who, so it's the person I got the charts from, who was like, I've loved this. I've always wanted, I love this. I love this still. And quite frankly, they were like, I'm not even sure I'm willing to part with the charts. And then they went, I honestly am never going to stitch this and complete it. And so there was no points. And so that's the person that I'm working to complete this so I can get it back to them so they can actually have this. And don't get me wrong, there's a little bit of self-interest in here because my family generally is of the type that if you stitched it, when that person passes away, it comes back to you. So I'm going, it will come back to me. And I'm very Christmas decorating oriented, so anywho. All right, so center panel, Bethlehem Star. The thing that you need to know about this is that this ridiculous star, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, is entirely stitched with Kreinik. Krynic, 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 Krynic. So just to give you a sense, here is the color chart. Here's the Krynics that you need for this part. There's 15 of them. And I know I can already hear some of you go, a couple of things. One, we don't love Krynic, switch it out for Petite Treasure Braid. On this particular piece, switching it out, I don't think will actually work. So normally a Petite Treasure Braid is a really great substitute for a Krynic number 4 braid, right? So I totally do that. You can not use the Krynic Petite Treasure Braid. This is actually using blending filament. And I will confess, it's not like I've gone onto Rainbow Gallery and went, is there something equivalent to blending filament in Rainbow Gallery? In all the stuff that I've done with Rainbow Gallery, I haven't seen anything that I think is the equivalent to it. And the materials that I got with this have the Krynic. And in order to make sure that things are consistent between, you know, the Krynics that have been used on the other panels, I will be using Krynic. I will be using the stuff that I got. I'm following the pattern, period. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So where are we at? I'll show you where I'm at, and then we're gonna, again, lots to talk about. I have lots of things to say and thoughts on things. So where are we? I took it off the frame so I could show it to you. Okay, other than my needle minder has just attached itself to my whiteboard. Again, this is the center panel. The stitched area is 27.5 by 18.5, so, you know, good luck. So here's where we are at. So I will say when I was stitching, so this is actually this part along here in the center. This is what I was stitching back in February before I started my Aunt's Easter piece. And one of my goals was I wanted to take the star all the way down to here because this is the bottom of the chart. And it would make me feel better. So that's the mark where I get to the end. Okay, this is where it gets really hard. I don't know what you're seeing. I hope it's coming through okay. Now, as people always comment, when you hold things up, you can never really catch the sparkle. It's Krynic, it's something. But under the right lights, it is sparkly. So the blank spots that you can see in here, so unlike the Mirabilia, where I go, the blank spots are all beads, those blank spots are areas that are waiting for Krynic. So when I first got this and started stitching on it, I will say that the blending filament was driving me nuts. I hated it. I was like, there were days where I was like, man, maybe the answer is you're not going to finish this. And I went, no, you can persevere. You're a big girl. You can get this done. So it is getting better. So I will say that the more that you use it, you know, it's like any other skill. The more that you do that, the more that you become accustomed to it. You learn things about what does and doesn't work for how you stitch, your style of stitching, you know, all sorts of things. So it was really interesting to me this week working on this project because, you know, because the last time I worked on the Nativity was back in February. So it's been a couple of months. Okay, 3 months since I've worked on this project. So it was really interesting to me to notice that I was actually not as fussed when I was working on it. So I thought that was interesting to me. It means, you know, okay, I'm not as annoyed. You know, that's always helpful because, you know, nobody likes sitting down with their stitching and going like, okay, here comes a really painful, annoying evening of stitching with something that is really annoying to stitch on. That doesn't bring anybody any fun, right? So it was interesting to me, and so I was actually very happy about that because it means hopefully, You know, I won't be dreading stitching all the time. And the other interesting thing to note is, so after I did the arm on Fairy Winter Dream, this is all that I've stitched on this week. I didn't actually take 2 days to step out and do something else. And even today, I'm going to continue stitching on this. So this is where my, you know, natural monogamous project stitcher, you know, thing comes out. It's like, maybe I didn't adapt so many habits from my May that I thought. And so what I'm saying to myself is I'm going to continue stitching on this till I'm kind of, you know, tired of this and I want a break. And immediately I'm going to go stitch on one of the smaller ones. And then I might go back and stitch the arm. We'll see how I'm feeling. I might come back and stitch on Marbek, because I am feeling, with all of the things that have been going on with my family from a health perspective and everything that's happened over the last 6 months, I am feeling some pressure that I need to get this done, because this is going to go to someone for them. And so I feel like I need to work on this, get it finished so I can get it off to them. Yeah, so you're going to be seeing a lot of Marbek. Hopefully you're going to be seeing a lot of Marbek, so hopefully I'm going to stick with it, and I'm really going to, you know, work through this and get going on this and get things completed, because I really do want to get that done. Now, it's not going to be quick, so let's not get excited. Honestly, I think so the beauty about doing floss tubes is it totally means is that, like, come September, when I'm doing completely different things, I can come back and you all can send the comments and saying, Judy, go watch floss tube number 8 where you said you were really committed to finishing this up. Hopefully I'll be able to do it on my own, but I'm totally enable all of you, when you get to that point saying, honey, you haven't been stitching on Marbek for quite some time, you should really get on that. Put it in the comments below. I'm authorizing you right now that you're allowed to monitor me and comment and say, you know, get on your project there. So my goal right now, okay, it's only because I know the pattern better than some of you, many of you. So here we go. So the angel over here is not complete. She's got another chunk of DMC stitching down here. And so what I'm planning on doing is, if you can't tell, I'm really trying to push through the star. I want to do the star. I want to get the star completed. There's a lot of Krynic in there. There's a couple more rays over here that come out. It's hard to see. Right. Okay. So again, there's going to be a lot of beads that go on here because that's what we're doing. And there's a couple more rays over here that need to come out. Now, I could count down and get them in. I'm choosing not to do that. I'm giving myself a break. So my answer is going to be work on the star, try to complete the star. But at that point where I'm getting really annoyed with the Krynic and I'm tired of the star and I don't want to do it anymore, that's when I'm going to pop over here and work on some lovely DMC on this angel. I'm not even going to work on her Krynic until all of the DMC is done here. Work on this DMC. I won't be attaching the beads on either side until all of the other stitching is done for the entire panel. For me, beads always go on last. That's just how I stitch. So this DMC stitching has yet to be done. The wing up here also has to be completed. But as I say, my focus is to get this star and these rays complete. So the other thing for you to note, I honestly had a moment said, how in the world do you reverse this, but I haven't. Let's talk about these crazy rays over here. Yeah, this is how big the piece is. I can barely get there. Okay, I'm not the tallest of people. My arms are short, so you know, I've also got that challenge going on. So the funny thing when you get over here, so this is also a note, read your pattern, read your pattern, read your pattern. Don't assume you know what's going on until you've thoroughly read your pattern. So if I had not read my pattern, I would have stitched these rays. I would have got them to the end of the chart. I think it's no, it's too big. I was going to show you a little bit of the thing. So I think the end of the chart is about here. And normally I would be a person who goes like, yay, I finished that Krynic. Very exciting. Except that there's a note in the directions that says, if you are stitching the center panel and you are stitching it all as one piece, add another 30 rows to, I think it's the top four rays. So I've only done 3. The 4th ray is coming out of that lower part of the DMC on that particular angel, so I haven't done it. But yes, look at that craziness. I'm rolling up to see if I can't do this. Right? Congratulations, you get all excited and you go, oh, and by the way, do another 30 rows of those Krynics. On each side, left and right. So I've done 3 out of 4 on the left side. I'll have to do this again when I do the other angel. At least I'm braced for it and I'm doing better. So yeah, anywho. So let's talk about working with Krynic, because lots of people hate the Krynic. I can't say that normally I would not be doing this much Krynic, right? This is an unusual, as far as I'm concerned, level of Krynic. So I've done Krynic in other patterns. I've used petite treasure braid in other patterns. I will say I'm not a person who sits down and goes like, oh goody, this is where I finally get to use the Krynic. That's not me either, but I'm also not one that says I hate doing it. It's like a lot of things for me in stitching. It's like, I don't know that I love working with Krynic, but I don't despise it either. So I always put it and say like, you just have to get through this and you're going to love the effect at the end. This is one where this is an awful lot of Krynic. And like I say, was really not enjoying it at the beginning, but I'm doing a lot better now. So I'm getting the hang of it. So I thought I would talk a little bit about what am I doing and what am I noticing about working with Krynic, particularly at this level. Like I say, so 15 different colors of Krynic. I'm actually going to hold the star up a little closer because there's quite a few colors. You wouldn't think that there would be this many colors in the star. I don't know if you can see all of them, but there's quite a few in there. And then, of course, in both the angels, left and right, there's, Krynics for those. So what am I doing? And again, I would say from a Krynic perspective, I tend to use number 4 braid more than I use blending filament. I do find blending filament to be finicky. So, using a really long, and it's 2 strands of blending filament for all of it, full stop. There are things like, so this is a combination of half stitches, full stitches, back stitching, Krynic. So you can't, it's not that you can't, I would recommend that you not use a really long strands, because it's so easy to get tangled. It's gonna drive you nuts. So you do have to use shorter lengths. Getting your ends in. I am running it under more threads, more stitches than I normally would on the back, just because it's slippery. And so when I first started, I would notice, like, if I ran it under a few threads like I would normally do with any other thread, that as I continued stitching, you'd flip it around to the back to tie something off and you're like, things are sticking out, this is coming loose, this is not so good. So I would recommend that you're gonna have to, for me, I run it under more than I would normally use, and I would say like double, to make sure that the end is truly in and staying. Particularly, you know, again, because I'm working on the center star, it's all Krynic, so it's Krynic on Krynic on Krynic. So that's one of the things that I'm noticing. The other thing that I'm doing on this, so normally on a 36 count, I would be using a number 28 tapestry needle, is what I would normally be doing. On this, and that's where I started, right? 36 count, you use a 28, zippity-doo-dah, off you go. Not doing that anymore. I am using a 26 tapestry needle. It's, for some of you out there, if you do a lot of work on linen, if you're having the like, ooh, that's an awfully big needle on 36. Yep, it is. And you notice it. And I'm deliberately doing that is because it does force, the needle is bigger than the hole that it's going into, and it's forcing that opening wider, so that as you pull the Krynic through, that it's not fraying it. So when I first started and I was using a 28, like, you get like 8 stitches in because the holes are small, you're using a small needle. It was actually starting to fray the Krynic as I was stitching. We're already using something I don't overly love. Having it fray after a few stitches is not good, hence frustration. So I am using a bigger needle just to make sure that the opening that I'm pulling the Krynic through is bigger. For me, I'm finding that that's working a lot better. So I'm getting less frustrated and I can just run it through. Your stitching slows down. So, you know, back when I was working on it in February, a couple of friends of mine, they're like, let's do a challenge, like, let's just see how much stitching we can get done, you know. And don't get me wrong, one of the friends is like the uber stitcher, and she, like, I feel like, you know, you give her an hour and a half and she stitched like 1,000 stitches. Vicky, if you're watching, I know you think that that's not true, but, you know, to the rest of us, that's how it looks. My stitching was really, really slow. I'm using a finicky thread. I'm being very careful. I'm making sure that the Krynic is lying in such a way, you know, particularly with blending filament, it's different than number 4 braid. I'm trying to make sure that the sparkly, it looks sparkly, and so, you know, you've got 2 strands. I am not railroading this thing. I'm already having enough challenges with the thing. I am not railroading Krynic. So I'm going to say that too. It's, the metallic is really hard on the eye of your needle. So I am watching as I'm doing things about changing. I do have to change my needle more. Because it starts to, you know, you've got this metal rubbing on metal, and so, you know, and again, it just makes things not good. So I'm watching as I'm threading things, what's happening, and you get to a point where it's like, okay, I need to change this. And for those of you who don't use a lot of Krynic, and so I don't know who told me this, but I've always followed this. I have a separate pair of scissors that I use, and I only use them when I'm working with metallic threads. So they're a completely different color than my other scissors. They're not gingers. They're not, like, I would say for sure, do not use your really fancy, super expensive scissors for your metallics. I would highly encourage you to have a separate pair of scissors that you just use when you're working with metallics. Same thing, right? The more that you use, the more that you're cutting it. It's metal on metal. It's going to dull your scissors. So I've got a cheap pair. They're still working fine for me. I haven't had to buy a replacement, a second pair, where I've noticed like it's not cutting or doing anything. So they're holding up okay. But I do have a very specific set of scissors, and I only use them for cutting metallics, whether it's Chronic, Petite Treasure Braid, take your pick. So I have that. And like I say, I didn't know that stitching with the Chronic was actually going to do things to the eye of the needle. So that's a learning for me. So that's what I'm doing. So I don't know the cotton. So I have 2 separate needle minders on here. Why is that? Because one of them is for the needle that I use for metallics. The other one is the needle that I'm going to use for DMC. So on this particular project, I actually have 2 needle minders because I'm segregating between the needle that I'm using for metallics and the needle that I'm using for non-metallic threads on this. So I'm gonna, for this week, again, my plan is I'm gonna stitch on this for as much as I can stand, and it could be the whole thing. So next week's video could turn into some really glorious, like 17 minutes something or other, because I only stitched on Marbek and I can show you the one. So that's Marbek. It's coming along. Upside is it's not driving me nuts like it was at the beginning. Still a long way to go. So that's this week's stitching. There's more to talk about Marbek. If you're tired of Marbek, just zoom forward till you stop seeing things about Marbek. Hang on a minute. Okay, let's get this off. I'm gonna go back to here and like, okay, so this is what I'm working on. Chronic, Ville, Chronic. The bottom part, I'm going to tell you right now, when we get there, there could be moaning and complaining. So if I get really moaning and complaining, there might be a series of videos that you just have to not watch to avoid the moaning, because this could kill me. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I can do this. I can do this. It will be really meaningful to the person at the end. And it'll be lovely at the end. It'll be lovely. That's what I keep telling myself. You can do this. It's going to be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. You can do this. Because this is... And who knows? Maybe I will have done enough crying up here that I'll get down here and it won't bother me. I just feel like I'm going to get into here and go like... Oh. Anyway. Okay, I won't do pre-moaning. But yes, even when I start down here, because again, this is a continuation. So when I get to doing this one, I will start at the top and work down, just to make sure it's there right. I am sure that by the time I get down here, I will be so grateful to see steps and Wiseman and things like, who knows how joyful I will be at that point in time. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be lovely at the end. So that's that part. And so the whole thing is, yes, my goal is I'm going to work on the big one, 27 stitch count area, 27.5 by 18.5 on 36 count. It's a big one. And then I will move on to the camel, and we're going to talk about the camel, even though I'm not close to starting it, because I want to talk about this is a really decorated camel. I will tell you. This is actually going to take skill sets that I don't know that I have, and it's going to make me use things that I haven't used before, and you know, hey, learning. So, welcome to the camel. I don't think you can see it even remotely well in the picture. So clearly the camel has tassels. I've never actually had to do tassels before, so I'll have to figure out how to do those. This camel, out of all of the patterns in this series, uses the most Krynic out of any of them. Actually, maybe in terms of count number, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. No, it's actually 15. So it's actually the same as the angels, but it's different. So pretty much like this whole blanket thing that the camel has going on here has Krynic in every single layer of that thing. There's ribbons, there's couched ribbons, there's It's hard to see, but there's like some, you use long stitches to create a design. Same thing, there's like these little X's in here, which again, to make it consistent with the rest of the pattern, I'm going to end up changing those into beads. The camel is very, very fancy. And I will say, having been to Jordan, you know, certainly when you go to Petra, there's always the camels that are really decorated. This is very typical of what that looks like. So yeah, when I get through the center panel, even through that star, as soon as I get to this one, I'm gonna have to, you know, there's still more chronic yet to come. It'll be different. It'll be lovely when it's done. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. So that is the Nativity. Hence the subject of this particular floss tube. Let's talk Marburg Nativity, because it's been a really long time on Marburg Nativity. So let's move on to some different things. Let's talk haul. I know I'm supposed to be really behaved, and I've been doing pretty good. Or at least I feel like I've been doing very good. And I wouldn't say that this is like an Uber haul thing, but I do have haul this week. I've had some good weeks where I have had no haul. So I'm going to start with the little things first. Pedestal. Now, for those of you who are watching and going like, this does not look stitching related at all, what are you doing? Why are you bringing this up? So this is a pedestal from Michaels. Helen D stitched something, and she did a finishing video on how she got it and attached it to this thing, and I honestly went, I think I could do that, and it looked really interesting. So, but I'm in Canada, and lots of time people show things, and you know, those dreaded people who go to Hobby Lobby. There's no Hobby Lobby in Canada. We can't, I suppose we could order online. I don't know if they ship to Canada. I just go Hobby Lobby and just go, I don't have a shot at getting this. We do have a Michaels. I believe Helen said she got it at Michaels, and so when I watched the video, I watched the finish in her first video, and I watched the finishing video. I will link the finishing video below. I looked at it and I said, I honestly think I can pull this off. Don't hold your breath. I don't know when this is going to happen, but I figured I would get the supplies while I could. So I went to Michaels, the Canadian website for Michaels, and we have the pedestals as well. So part of the benefit of this pedestal is because of this scalloped edge, you can actually sit it on something. There we go. And it doesn't roll around. So you have a choice of attaching something, and it could just sit, if it was on something low, a coffee table, you could set it there and, you know, you could see it was on top, or you can plop it on sideways and it won't be rolling around, even though it looks like it's a circular thing, has some, you know, design to it. I went, and it was available, and it was 50% off. So I did buy two. I'm only showing one, but I did buy two. You can get, if you're wanting to go to the Michaels site, all you have to do is type in pedestal in the search bar, and this should come up. This is an Ashland project. If you can't find it or you're having trouble, I can always just put a comment in and I can give you the SKU number because the tag is still attached. But it's on 50% right now. I will say, if you're better off picking it up at the store. So for me, there's Michaels here. They did offer that they could ship it to me. If they were shipping it to me, it was going to be $18 of shipping. Sorry, this stand didn't cost $18. This stand was $6.49. I wasn't paying $18 for shipping. They did have them in stock in the store that was closest to me. That was great. So I ordered it, picked it up at the store. You know, they've got curbside delivery if you don't want to go in, all sorts of things. So if you're looking for it, it is available now in Canada, which we can't always get. So anyway, after you watch our videos, if you want it, you can get it. So that's the Michaels acquisition for stitching. Then I did go to, as I say, I'm very lucky. I have 2 LNSs. One of them is actually now open. They're limiting how many people can come in the store. You have to come in. They've got their own procedures. The other one is currently still closed, but doing curbside pickup. So the one that is open, you know, it's always grateful, you know, when you get to go into the store. So they actually had a Q-snap cover in the store, so I picked it up, blue and green. These are my colors. So this is a Q-snap that will fit an 11 by 11, but as they noted on the packaging, don't forget an 11 by 11 will also fit, I think it's 8 by 14. Anyway, that's not usually, I tend to only do them in squares, but for those of you who potentially combine things in different areas. So I have a new Q-snap cover for me. Well, yeah, for me. And then the reason why I was going in was specifically because I wanted to look at bell pull hardware. So this is where we go. So as we've been going through things, I'm going to show you what's come into my possession. This is another one. I'm going to have to sit back. So this, oh hey, this is called Journey Through Banff. Don't worry, I'm going to hold it up closer. You'll be able to get all the see the things. And I'm going to talk a long time about this because this is very sentimental to me. So again, I did none of the stitching. Don't kid yourself. But it was on my list that potentially I was going to need to stitch one of these for myself. My mom has one, but in my head, that one was going to my brother, who's a big mountain climber, as is my dad. My dad, 77, still climbing mountains, the whole thing, crampons, ropes, guides, they're crazy. I'm sane. I stay at home and say, good luck to you. I'm glad you enjoy that. But anyway, so this is Journey Through Banff. I'm going to give you a little bit of details about it before I show you up close what it is. Now, trust me, I have the original. I, of course, couldn't find the original in time for the video, but because questions had come up on it in one of the Facebook groups, I'd taken a picture of the cover of the front page of this pattern, so this is what I printed out. So this is, so it is from Nimble Needle. The copyright on this thing is 1976. The designer is Marie Mann. So this is what it looks like. It is out of print, out of print, out of print, out of print. And apparently, according to the, when it comes up in discussion, really hard to find. So I will tell you right now, yes, I have an original. I'm just going to put it out there. No, I am not prepared to give it away. I know that's slightly selfish of me, but it's very, very sentimental to me for a variety of reasons. And I'm keeping the pattern. But I will tell you, I'm probably putting a note on it so that when I die, somebody knows that it should be offered into the Facebook groups, because I'm sure someone out there will want it. Who knows? I might get to a point where I'm okay letting it go. I'm not okay right now. But I could. Anyway, right now I'm just going to say I'm not prepared to give away my original. So, Journey Through Banff, Needle Nimble, copyright 1976. So what is this? And so for those of you who are not Canadian and don't know anything Alberta, or don't know anything Banff, I'm going to say things, and if they don't make any sense to you, feel free to Google Banff and tourism Banff. I know, you know, certainly there's not a lot of tourism going on right now, but you can always put it on your list of things to go see. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the bell pull, because that's really kind of how the journey through Banff works. as you're coming into Banff. So this is the gates. So there's gates at the entrance to the national park. There is one of these buildings is still intact. When I was growing up, yeah, I'm elderly, let's just go with that. They did all of the kiosks, because you have to pay to get into the park. You need a visitor's pass. All of the kiosks look like this when you paid. My family, of course, always got an annual pass because we went a lot when I was a child. The ones for the other lanes they don't look like this anymore. They do have some things, but they don't look like this. So for me, I look at this and go, this is my childhood, going through the gates of Banff. So then as you come up, so this is, so there's a river that's going to run through this whole bell pole. This is the Bow River. And it comes all the way, the Bow River flows all the way through Calgary. I'm naive enough to go, I don't know what happens after it leaves Calgary. It keeps going. But the Bow River is a big river in southern Alberta. So this is Lake Minnewanka. And there's notes in the original pattern about all of these things. So this is, it's got a note about black bear. To me, I go, black bears are really black. This has a lot of brown in it. So in my head, I'm going, it's not exactly a black bear. But they talk about the prevalence of black bears in the Rocky Mountains. And particularly these cubs are going up a tree that the vernacular for it, forget what the real name of the tree is, but it's called a lodgepole pine, and was noted because normally these were used for the center pole of Indian teepees. And then we go up. So this is Banff holds a festival called Indian Days, and you know, you get to see teepees and all that kind of stuff. This is a buffalo, so there's actually a buffalo paddock as you're coming into Banff that you can go through and see buffaloes grazing around and all that kind of stuff. And again, for me as a child, we did that a number of times. This is the gondola at Sulphur Mountain. And again, if you go now, the gondolas are no longer red. They're a different color. I want to say white, silver in that area. But again, for me as a child, the gondolas were red. And we would, it does say something about my parents, we would occasionally take the gondola up to the top of Sulphur Mountain. You can ride the gondola back down. My family, if we took the gondola up, we were walking down. I think it's actually because my parents were like, this is like a hike for the kids and it's going to tire them out. Now that I'm older, I think that's what was really going on. It's super exciting. You know, we get to go to the top of the mountain and then we're going to make them walk all the way down. So we did that quite a few times during my childhood. And then next is the Banff Springs Hotel. And again, if you want to know anything about it, it's all you have to do is Google Banff Springs Hotel and you can get the history of it. And they have a golf course as well. And then at the very top of the pattern is the view down Main Street. And again, because I'm elderly, this is, okay, there would normally be cars, so not quite this pristine, but certainly from the buildings in the background, this is what the Banff of my childhood looked like. If you go to Banff now, all the facades have been updated. It looks completely different, you know, as happens everywhere. But for me, this is what Banff Main Street looked like to me. And lots of memories of going into, like, there used to be a really good yarn store And so we would go in and, you know, we could pick a yarn, and my grandma would knit us a pair of socks or a pair of mitts for the winter. So it was honestly, it was an annual event that we would go into Banff, and we would go to the yarn store, and we would get to pick a yarn. And of course, an RCMP in his dress red uniform, which is very recognizable. And I know that in one of the groups they were commenting that they thought it was not complete because there's a lot of unstitched area at the top in this mountain here, and that is as designed. So that is what the pattern calls for. So that is Journey Through Banff. And so I went to get bell pull hardware, and, you know, wanted to go in and see what my options were. And so this is the hardware that I've picked up. Now, don't get excited when you come back the next time. It's not like I will have accomplished anything on this, but I at least have the hardware. And now I have to do some things and figure out, and I'm going to have to go over and look at my mother's and see how hers was finished, and whether I want to do backing fabric. There's enough fabric here that I think I could just actually, you know, hem this up, sew this up the middle, right? Just to create a seam down, and there's enough where it's its own backing. I just want to go have a look and see how my mom's was done, see what she did on that. But yeah, I'm going to hold it up one more time. Very sentimental to me. Journey Through Banff. So that's on the to-do list, but like I say, not happening imminently, but I just wanted to make sure that I have the hardware so that when I, you know, get to that brave moment in time, I can do that. So next pattern. So I talked about this last week, that I'm debating whether I'm going to get the Twin Peak Primitives. I forgot the name again. I'll Be Home Sal that Just Keep Stitching is putting on. So I haven't pulled the pin yet. I haven't bought the pattern yet, but I'm thinking about it. I only have until June 24th if I want to get the 20% discount on the package of 12. So I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to hold it up because in case you don't know, so this is so it's a package of 12 houses. There's a special running right now because Just Keep Stitching is going to be running a sale for this called the I'll Be Home Sale. You can get this pattern through the Twin Peak Primitives website. They have an Etsy shop, and if you go to Just Keep Stitching, they will tell you, I think it's Beach Cottage Stitchers is where you can get a paper pattern. So if you need more details, watch a Just Keep Stitching episode. I'm still debating. I have a thing about houses. I haven't pulled the pin yet, but I'm probably gonna get them. Haven't done it yet, so it's not quite haul, but it's seriously contemplated haul. This one is haul. So I did, if you watch Off the Grid Needle Arts, and if you don't, you should. I enjoy her. And she's been doing daily craft chats. They're not floss cinema. They really are floss tubes. And so on Fridays, she's featuring designers. And so this last Friday, she featured Lena Cross Stitch, which is a shop on Etsy. So if you like, I call these like the geometric patterns, monochromatic. I love things like this. So if you like the Northern Expressions Shades of series or ink circles, they've got geometric patterns. This fits right into it. So this is one of her smaller ones. I think this is 127 by 127. This is called Antique Square Motif. Very reasonably priced. Very reasonably priced. And so I was very well behaved because I went on there and I wanted about 20 patterns. Thank you, Caroline. But I bought one. So I was very restrained. It was a very economical pattern, but there's a lot on there that I would love, right? So you could stitch this as a monochromatic, you could stitch this with an overdyed, you could stitch this in multitudes of colors and pick out elements, and again, who knows when I'm going to start it. I really bought it so that I could make sure that I had the shop. I favorited the shop, I had the thing, and that I have it set up so that I can go like at that moment where like, you know, I don't want to stitch any of the geometric patterns in my stash and I need to go find one. I now know probably Lena is a really quick one to go on, and I could find, you know, 15 different things that I wanted to stitch in a moment's notice. So go visit Lena Cross Stitch, not Lena's, Lena. I'll link it below. If you like to be tempted by these types of designs. If you don't like to be tempted, I'm going to tell you right now, it's really tempting and a rabbit hole. So if you don't want to be tempted, don't go visit. If you want to be tempted, go visit. Alrighty. Now, last but not least, this is the part where poor old Denise Jeffries has been waiting like forever. So I might, you know, if any of you are watching and know her and she hasn't watched it, tell her she has to scoot way to the end to get to this thing. I'm going to show one more pattern. So in last week's video, I had shown something that my aunt had stitched, which I said, I already forget the name of it. I couldn't remember the name of it then. Williamsburg Christmas, I think is what it is. And Denise Jeffries, she went and she found it, and it, you know, yes. Williamsburg Christmas, it's by Cattle Creek Cross Stitch. Cattle, C-A-D-L-E. I think they're out of print. Now, the other thing for Denise, if you're watching, I thought I had seen a comment from you where you said all of those. I can't find the comment now, so I don't know if I did something wrong or if you made the comment private and I can't find it. New to the whole commenting thing, so sorry about this. So they also have another one. So my aunt also stitched this one, so it's really great. A lot of the stitching I'm showing you today, I have done none of. There it is. There's the small one. So this is called Victorian Christmas. So very, very similar to the Williamsburg Christmas, only the houses in this one are red and there's no border. Now, if it were me, I would want to put a border so that they would match. But my aunt was a little bit off on either how she decided where she was starting or what she was doing, because this is maybe an inch and a quarter from the edge. So I haven't quite decided what I'm doing with this, but I love this too. So this is called Victorian Christmas, also by Cattle Creek. Now, again, as I've been going through all of the inherited stuff, I will say I have 2 originals of these. So Denise, also because you were my first public commenter and you asked the question, although I can't find that comment now, so anyway, if you would like the pattern for Victorian Christmas, so this is what it is. If you want to send me an email with your mailing address, you can reach me at citystitcher52, the number's 52. So citystitcher, all one word, 52 at gmail.com. So if you send me your address there, I'd be more than happy to send you my second copy of Victorian Christmas. I know it's not really the one that you were talking about before, but it's very similar. So if you're interested in that, just shoot me a note and I can put that in the mail for you. Alrighty, that is all of my stuff that I wanted to talk about. So it's not bad. We're coming up on about 1:20, so we're not quite at an hour and a half, so it's sort of coming up on Floss Cinema territory. So I'm going to end that. Thank you all for stopping by and spending some time with me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Like I say, if you've got any comments, questions, just pop them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. I hope everybody is staying safe, finding enjoyment in their stitching, and let's all do some stitching this week. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good week.